Good morning and welcome back to the Good Morning Minute podcast. I'm your host, Angelina Mojica, and I'm excited to kick off season 2 with a theme that touches every single one of us: relationships. That's right, friends. Relationships are at the heart of our human experience. They shape who we are, how we grow, and how we show up in the world. Whether it's family, friends, romantic connections, or even the relationships we have with ourselves, each one carries lessons, challenges, and moments of pure joy. This season, we'll sit down with incredible guests who will share their stories, wisdom, and insights on building, nurturing, and even healing relationships. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive into conversations that inspire connection and growth. Now that we've set the stage for today's conversation on relationships, I'm thrilled to introduce our guest. She brings a unique perspective and a wealth of experience to the table, and I know her insights will leave you feeling inspired and equipped to navigate your own relationships with more intention and understanding. So please welcome with me today, Reesa, to the Good Morning Minute podcast. Welcome, Reesa. I'm so glad you are here today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I really do appreciate it. I'm excited to be here.
Well, let's start with a just to get to know you question. What about our specific topic drew you to this, to like submit your interest for being a guest here and talk about it, and then kind of give a little bit about your background as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, the interest that I have in relationships, I think some of that comes not only in what I do just professionally, but also my personal experience. I come from a first generation Filipino American immigrant family. And there was a lot of kind of emotional, immature kind of household in that sense, as far as just talking about emotions and kind of being in a healthy relationship, if you will, wasn't really something that was modeled or normal or seen. And so there was a lot of chaos growing up in my life. And so that was just something that was so incredibly foreign to me, that I always, I had questions about, but didn't really know what that looked like, or how to even go about doing that and having kind of a healthy and thriving relationship. And it wasn't really until I got into my own therapy and then eventually kind of doing my own work, and then becoming a therapist myself, that things started to kind of fall into place. And all of a sudden there's all these like light bulb moments. And for me particularly, I really found a heart for parents specifically, and really kind of how could I give back to that population. Becoming a parent myself, I had a high medical needs child. My very first child was very high medical needs for his first 18 months. And that took a real toll on my relationship with my partner and on my own identity as a parent, because that was just such a whirlwind of events. And so not only did I become a therapist before I had kids, but then seeing that journey in myself, even as a parent, really kind of led me to professionally really, going back, making sure to get extra certifications and being able to help support parents, and how to really nurture the backbone of our society. The people that are creating our future generations are these parents, and there's not a whole ton of support for them. And so I just really kind of fueled my passion of becoming that support. If I wasn't gonna, find it myself, okay, then I'm gonna figure out how I can be that for future. And so that's kind of what led me into doing what I do. And now I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I specialize in working with parents and couples, specifically, and really helping support them, knowing that it's okay to actually put ourselves first, and making sure that we are able to have the capacity to thrive, so that we can then show up as parents in our best form. Because when we are depleted, when there's nothing left, we don't have that support system around us, it's really hard for us to show up in the way that I know most of us parents kind of want to be able to show up. And so that's my job. I'm that support person behind these amazing parents.
I love it. And for me personally, the parent-child relationship has been a tremendous I don't know, centering stone in my own personal life and journey because I had three failed marriages. And in that, I had three children. So I never wanted to lose sight of that relationship and the communication. So I love that you're bringing this to the topic because you're right. Families do fall apart, and the stress of parenting, especially with higher needs children. I mean, I work in the foster care industry as well. So I definitely know that that does put an extra stressor on the marriage and the marriage relationship. So it is important to have those types of discussions and whatnot. What would you say, in your opinion, in your professional opinion, what would you say is the most important foundation of any healthy relationship?
Um, that's a great question because I think as cliche as it sounds, communication is definitely a key of it, but it's an authentic and safe communication. And I think that's the part that sometimes gets missed is that it's like, oh, well, I'm talking, but not necessarily in a way that's getting us moving forward in our relationship, one, and then also not listening in a way that we're sending safety signals to our partner to want to get vulnerable. And really, it's a communication that is transparent and vulnerable. But in order to want to go there, it needs to feel safe and secure to be able to kind of open up that piece of ourselves because that's really scary.
Yes, being vulnerable with anybody is scary, and to have that trust in a relationship. So, how does a couple start building the trust from ground up? What is it that has to be implemented? Because we don't walk into a relationship going, I trust you,
Mhm.
that is built over time. So, what are some of the, I don't know, strategies or methods that you suggest to your couples in building that trust so that communication can be very open and fluid?
Yeah, I think that listening part is going to be the first kind of key piece is figuring out how to listen truly to understand coming from that place of curiosity, not from a place of judgment or how can I fix the problem. I think so many times, especially when we're entering into relationships, we care about this person, and so to kind of see them in distress or see them struggling, similar to as parents to children, we want to jump in and we want to save that because it's like, oh, I don't want you to feel that way. And sometimes, as much as the heart is there to kind of want to do the great thing, sometimes we end up missing our partner, and so then it feels a little bit unsafe because it feels like, oh, you just want to solve my problem. Like it's not okay for me to come to you and be just in distress and have you just accept me as this like mess of a person, and have that be okay. And so, really kind of listening and tuning into that person again from that place of curiosity, tell me what's going on, and just meeting them right there where they're at, not to solve it, not to immediately kind of jump into hero mode, as so often we want to do, but really just to be there and to meet them and then let them lead and say, what is it that you need from me in this moment, and letting them lead. If they want your help to fix it, then great. Like you can jump in and you can, be that fix it person. If they just want you to sit there and not pull away, because I imagine, and what I generally experience from many couples is that we're really good at self-criticism and
Mm.
piling on the shame for ourselves. And so the likelihood that they're already kind of judging themselves when they're coming to you in this is really, really high. And so kind of hearing you want to just move through it and go, okay, how can we just get it over with? It almost is like it's not okay to kind of be a mess. I need to fix it. I need to do something different. And so rather when we just sit in it, then all of a sudden we're letting them know and we're building that safety and security that, hey, it's okay to kind of have things be messy. I still want to sit there with you. I'm not trying to pull away or say, oh, okay, that's a you problem. Figure it out. Let me know when you're done and I'll come back to you because I only want you in this fixed state. But rather just that it's okay for us to kind of just sit there and that they're still lovable, they're still wanted, even in the messy bits. And I think that's really the biggest first step because the more that we can do that, we can start to heal some of those wounds that maybe they have that you have yourself. And then there's a trust that's built, there's a security that's built. And so the want that they're going to come to you and want to be vulnerable and transparent with you just we're increasing the likelihood. And then the more often that that happens, then the more instinctual it becomes for us to turn towards each other and really start like, hey, this is my person. Like, this is a
Mm.
safe person for me to be with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like that you, because it is instinctually, as a human being, we want to like protect ourselves from emotions because it's
Mhm.
okay to be angry. We know what that looks like and we know what that is. But instinctually, we just as humans want to fix it because we just don't have a comfort
Mhm.
in those emotions. So when you care about somebody, you want to fix it, make them feel better, make them back to happy or, content, whatever that is. But you said it, just to sit in the emotion with them and just be there. I had a person that I was dating at one time who was going through some stuff and when he was talking with me, I wanted to offer him, of course, my expertise and the knowledge that I had and maybe it's this or that and he's like, you know what? Sometimes you just want someone to sit down next to you and say, yeah, that sucks too.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what I'm hearing when you say this. But you have to. So, how do we get comfortable with our partners in sitting in those emotions? Because, like many of us, we want to either fix it and make it go away, make you happy again. But how do we get comfortable in just those sitting in those emotions and just being there with the other until it passes? Or what would you suggest in that situation?
Yeah. And I think you nailed it right on the head. It's a discomfort, right? It's super uncomfortable to be in some of that heaviness.
Hmm.
And so really the first step is you even allowing yourself permission to sit with yourself when things are uncomfortable. And instead of just immediately, how can I distract, especially nowadays, we've got our phones, so we've got all sorts of ways to kind of media to consume to kind of distract ourselves because we get in that habit even with ourselves of that the minute that something feels uncomfortable, oh, I don't like how this feels in my body, it's like, how can I change it, how can I
Hmm.
avoid it, so then we pull out the phone, we start that doom scrolling, or we turn on the TV, so okay, I just need something to distract myself, and if I have something to distract myself, then it'll be better because I'm no longer having to sit in this really uncomfortable kind of icky feeling. And so then absolutely when you see it then in somebody else, you're like, ooh, I know how uncomfortable that is. Let's fix it. So here are some things that help me. Right. And so I think it really does start with us giving ourselves permission to even sit with ourselves in
Hmm.
some of those uncomfortable moments. And then we build up a little bit of a tolerance of like, yeah, it feels uncomfortable, but I can sit here and I think I can give myself some grace and some compassion that I'm not unlovable myself when
Hmm.
I'm in these uncomfortable bits, and that I myself am not trying to shy away from me. And then
Hmm.
we get a little bit more comfortable with that. So then when we see it in other people, it doesn't trigger all of that, like, oh, yeah, I hate this. And so let's get out of it. And so then it gives us a better capacity, I think, to be able to sit with somebody else when we've tried it out for ourselves too.
Hmm. So what is some of the individual work you give to your couples when you're trying to get them to that point?
Yeah. So some of that is first, I think, acknowledging, even just putting a name to what we're
Hmm.
feeling. And some of that it is about an awareness of, hey, yeah, this is, I think what's coming up for me is some grief. Okay. And now we've put a word to it. And the minute that we put a word to it, I find it almost takes away some of its overwhelming power, because now it's like, oh, I see you, grief. And so some of it starts with that labeling piece. And then the homework usually that I give to them is, can we find an opportunity? And even if it's set yourself a 5 minute timer, especially at the beginning when it is super uncomfortable, of just
Hmm.
5 minutes of going into some of that grief, like let's say it is grief, and just ask the question, hey, grief, what is it that you're trying to bring my attention to? Because oftentimes emotions, when we have them, it's our body's way of trying to communicate something to us, whether it's maybe a boundary that feels like it was crossed, or maybe a value that feels like it's not being honored or seen. And so really kind of getting curious with ourselves and going into it, and like I said, because it is something uncomfortable, I generally don't tell folks like go into it all the way, like knee deep and spend hours in it, because that can just feel like you'll never get out of it. So set yourself
Right.
like a 5-minute timer, especially at the beginning, and just say, okay, for 5 minutes, I'm just going to get curious. Like, hey, what is going on here? What maybe kind of triggered this for me, or what's coming up for me? And just ask the questions, again, not coming from a place of having an agenda, trying to fix it or trying to judge it. Anytime we get to those words of like, well, you shouldn't feel that way, or oh, why would you feel that way? We're adding a little bit of judgment even to ourselves of like, oh, I should just get over this. Right? How many times I know I've said that to myself so many times of just, oh, we just need to get over it. And so even that, like, we're coming to ourselves in some form of judgment. So instead, just 5 minutes of suspending the judgment, just getting curious and asking the question, hey, what is that you're trying to communicate? And then once that timer goes off, you can go back to your avoiding the things that have worked for you, because I don't want to take away the things that have been safe for you. But maybe we can increase some of that tolerance little by little. So maybe, do a couple of 5 minutes, then we sit with it for 6 minutes. And again, just getting curious and looking at it almost as if you put a box on a table, and the box is the emotion or whatever event came up for you, and just looking at it kind of like an alien who's dropped down to this planet for the very first time, and you're just sitting there going, what is this? Like, I'm curious about it. And then we can say, okay, my timer went off, I can put the box back in the hidden corner for now, and then try it again tomorrow, come back to it for another 5 minutes, and then maybe next week it's 6 minutes, and so on and so forth.
I love it. It's almost like going to the gym and for the first time and trying to build a muscle, right? You have to do
Yes.
it in increments. And then you get to your goal and you get to increase that as well. I like that you're talking about like just little bits, little habit changes here and there. What is the benefit as a couple is practicing this idea, this technique? What's the benefit long term?
Yeah. So the benefit that I have seen, personally and professionally, for that matter, is that when we build that safety of attachment, and really that's what it is, we're trying to build a secure attachment with our partner, that it allows us more confidence in change and growing with our partner, so that all those life dreams that you sit down and you're like, oh, I would love to do these things and I would love to build this family with you, it makes it so much more attainable, because there is that safety that, hey, if we stumble, if we fall, which is going to happen because we're human and we're dealing with other humans generally, that the likelihood is high that it doesn't feel, oh, that's it, I can't ever do that again, I give up, because that's just way too much. Now we've got that teammate who is in our corner 100%, and we feel confident that they're in our corner, and now we have a little bit more of that confidence to take that step forward and to try something different and to try growth and change, which change is scary. So many people, we stay in the discomfort of our known, because we know that we know this chaos, we know what that's like. Yeah, I really hate it, but I know what this is like. I don't know what's on the other side, and that's really scary. And so instead, now all of a sudden we're going into that scary with someone that we know without a doubt has our back. And gosh, the amount that I see couples be able to then flourish and to be able to now start achieving those life dream goals and that kind of, self-actualization piece, it's much more attainable because we're not alone and we don't feel alone in it.
I love that. And not only, okay, so you mentioned earlier, like having a model as your parents are your model, and to have something that is modeling healthy communication, comfort in emotions and being able to express that freely and vulnerably. Like, how does that transcend to the parent-child relationship?
Yes. Well, because as much as that saying, I don't know if you're familiar, that do what I say,
Mhm.
not what I do,
Mhm.
as much as that would be amazing if that's how children worked. The reality is, I have not really found any child that works that way. They are very much kind of that visual. Yes, they're taking in the things that are coming in their ears, but they're also very much taking in what they're seeing with their
Mhm.
eyes and what they're experiencing with their bodies. And so when we ourselves as parents are able to feel and know what a secure attachment looks like within ourselves, within our relationship, now all of a sudden we have a little bit of framework of how to create a secure attachment with our children. So now our children are feeling safe to come to us with all that scary stuff. And how many parents want, their kids to come to them with those really like scary life,
Mhm.
altering questions? We want our kids to come to us. And
Yeah.
so when we can show them, I'm a safe person, this is a secure relationship, now they can come to us. Now it's, again, we're building that habit of them coming to us because this is my safety. I know that this person has my back. I know that this
Mhm.
person loves me unconditionally. And now, again, they can go out and they can try that really scary thing of learning and changing and growing because they know they've got people in their corner that have their back, regardless of the fails and regardless of the messiness that's going to happen because it's life. And they're now not only equipped to go into that, but then they also are holding higher standards for the relationships around them. They're
Mhm.
no longer feeling like, oh, well, I see that life happens. I don't really get to have a secure attachment. That's just kind of how life is.
Mhm.
And now they're saying, you know what? I deserve a secure attachment. I deserve a partner who's going to listen to me and be willing to sit with me in the messiness. Like, hey, no, like I deserve that. And so now they're looking for that in relationships as well, which then we're setting up that generational healing instead
Yes.
of the generational trauma.
I love that. And you're right because you're raising self-aware children. You're raising children that are emotionally intelligent. And so when they do step into those relationships that they're like, "Oh, this is dysregulating for me. Like this is not what I was, given as an example. So I know that this isn't something I want to step into." They are going to be more confident and more secure in saying, you know what, this relationship isn't for me, and I'm going to move forward with myself, and you do you, I'm going to go
Mm-hmm.
over here and be healthy. But and I think that's great because we need more of that, because coming from a background myself with examples that weren't healthy, I definitely can see the generational trauma in my own life, and it does. I mean, it takes a lot to change that trajectory for the generations to come after you as well. So I love that. Um, what was in your own background, in your own childhood? What was one maybe memory, tradition, or value that you hold dear to your heart that you've implemented in your career or your personal life today?
Yeah, so I think for me, one thing that I did see a lot, just in my culture, in the Filipino culture, family is very
Hmm.
big. And so
Hmm.
I have found that that's a very, very big value for me. And I think where some of my growth happened is, what does that family look like for me? Because I think growing up with in my household, there was a lot of abuse. And so for me, there was a conflicting kind of message. Family is really important, but then there's this kind of abuse, which feels very, I don't like how that feels.
Hmm.
And, but it's coming from family. And so, but family is important. And so there was a real battle, I think, as I was growing up of how do I make sense of this? And
Hmm.
so as I did my own work and as I did my own healing, I think that allowed me the capacity to then come back and say, family is really important to me. And I think that there are ways that we can just workshop this so that it really aligns with something where I'm not feeling that strife and that battle.
Mm-hmm.
And so now for me, some of that family value comes out in setting boundaries with some of my family of origin that are still deciding, they want to continue in their ways. And that, again, similar to what you said, you do you. It's also, I have to acknowledge that was hurtful for me. And that's not necessarily serving my now family that I've created. And I really value them and I want them to be thriving. And so maybe we're setting boundaries within that family of origin as a way to honor my family now in the way that it looks like. And so knowing that it's okay, because before I was struggling to set those boundaries because it felt like, oh, but they're my family too. And so if I set a boundary with them, is that going against this family value that I hold so near and dear?
Mm-hmm.
And instead, it's a workshopping and it's a reframing of what exactly are the family components that for me are really, really valuable, and how can I honor those in all its capacity, and what would that look like for me? And so getting a little bit creative with what my definition of family looks like, and the value of family looks like for me personally, and how does that fit in my life.
I think that's one piece of like really good advice for people that are listening out there, is that you can create that from what you were given. You can create what that needs to look like for yourself. I mean, you said it. What does family look like for me? Just because you come from a hard place or you've had some situations in your past doesn't mean that you can't create and move forward in a healthy manner. Like you definitely can. You can visualize what that needs to look like for you, your partner, and your family and your children, and you can implement that. And life is nothing but lessons learned. I mean, every experience you go through, the good, the bad, the ugly, it's all to learn from. It doesn't feel like that, in the midst of it all, but you definitely pull out a better awareness about who you are as a person and what you want to do with that information. I know often when I teach a parenting class, I'll tell my young moms, like, you're going to parent either the same or you're going to go a complete 180 for better or worse.
Yeah.
You just got to decide what you want to do, and it's okay to take some of those routes and plant them in your current situation, because not everything is bad. Not everything is bad, for sure. Well, Reesa, I love that you were able to give such good advice and just a good perspective on putting your marriage first, putting your relationship first, doing the individual work so that you can get to a healthy relationship, and also how it helps in that just going down towards the children and their perspective of relationship, and their ability to build identity and whatnot from it. I love that. If you could give someone out there listening a piece of advice on maybe a situation that they're struggling with, what would that be?
One that I find that comes up quite a bit, especially, just in line with the topics that we've been discussing, is that oftentimes I get parents that come and say, well, isn't that selfish? And my comment to that, and take it for whatever it's worth, is that, gosh, if our child came to us with that same request of, is it selfish for me to pour into myself, to want a relationship that is thriving and stable, so that you have the capacity to pour into the children in the way that you really, really want? What would your response to them be? And the likelihood that you would say, no, of course that's not selfish, because we're looking at them and we're looking at our children and saying, I want the world for you. It's being able to offer ourselves that same compassion and that same grace, that we want the world for the little child inside of us, and that it's okay to do that too. And to say, I am worth having this moment where I can pour into myself, and I am worth having a relationship that feels safe and secure. when we do that, it actually unlocks our ability to be there for our children in like by 10 times. It increases our capacity. And so if we look at it that way, it's actually not selfish. We're actually still very much serving the life that we want our children to have. We're just doing it again in that creative way.
I love it. And I mean, it's good. It's good advice because I always, coming from my own journey, thought if I didn't put my kids first and I was last and I wasn't serving others, I know I was a bad person, but that
Mhm.
doesn't define that doesn't define you. And it just teaches people that they can take advantage of you
Yeah.
in the long run. So if you want to be taken advantage of, use your power of no and set your boundaries for sure. Reesa, if someone wanted to get in contact with you outside of this podcast, how could they do so?
Yes, the best way to find me is through my website, which is embracerenewaltherapy.com. And that has links to any of the services. So I do offer counseling, therapy services for anyone that physically lives in the state of California right now. I also do parenting workshops. And couples workshops as well. And those are offered virtually. So, pretty much anyone worldwide, if you have access to a computer. And I do vary up the times to try to accommodate for different time zones as well. So, those are consistently getting updated on my website. You can also on there find, I do also have a video podcast where I talk with real life parents and we pull back the curtain. So, no more of that perfect parent kind of persona that gets put out
Mhm.
there. We're talking about real life struggles. And at the same time, bonus, not only do you get to hear real parenting stories and kind of the struggle is real and the struggle is hard, but they also share a recipe, whether it's a recipe that they love, that their children love, or from their culture. So, you get another recipe to add to your book because which parent doesn't, isn't tired with this, the same old routine and is like, I don't have the mental capacity to think of what's for dinner tonight. Well, you can listen to the podcast and pick up one of the recipes there and try it out.
Oh, but that is beautiful. I love it. All right, everyone. This is Reesa. I want to say thank you again for being a guest on our show and sharing your insights for sure. Everyone out there listening, you know who I am. I'm Angelina Mojica, your life coach, sending you much love, much peace, many blessings.